Minash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Well, it was a really long request from my students in the first grade. They were kind of really asking me to speak in English for a really long time, even in class. So I guess today is the day their wishes come true. So the topic of my speech is the importance of knowledge. So to begin with that, I would like you all to just think about the advancements that we have made in our world. As humans, as a species, are the most dominant life forms on planet Earth. Okay, we have tons of animals, tons of other species as well. We have cats, dogs, and other stuff. But us humans are the most dominant, and we are not the most successful species on Earth because we are strong, and because we are not. And I bet most of you can't even fight another animal. I know for a fact that we have a cat at our house, and I know for a fact that most of you can't even catch that little cat because if she does not want you to. Because us humans do not excel physically in most things, but one thing that we have going for us, which has given us the edge over other animals, is our brains. The human being is one of the most smartest beings on the planet and in the world. And because of that, we have made the world suit us and suit ourselves. So when you think about how we have crushed through mountains, how we have made metal, which is a very strong element or material, and we have molded it to meet our needs. Most animals cannot do that, but us humans have done so because we are smart, we are creative and genius, and we have the power in our brains and our creativity to mold those materials and resources to our needs. And in this context, I want to first congratulate all the students who are graduating this year. They spent their last 6 years studying Islamic education. Now they are graduating, which is a great feat. It's not easy to study. It's really not easy to endure 6 years of rigorous studies. My students from the first grade can attest to that. So there's that. And I would also like to narrate a few hadiths related to this topic. So I'm not going to just narrate the whole hadith. I'm just going to give what the Prophet meant by those hadiths, to just keep it short. So the Prophet was asked about two people. One was a worshipper who used to spend all his nights worshipping, and the other person was a scholar who used to sleep at night and won't do any other extra worship. And when asked who was the more blessed person, the Prophet replied with the person who was sleeping. So we have two people: a person who is worshipping his whole night away, and a person who teaches others, is an educated person, a learned person, but is sleeping, just like you or me. And the Prophet replied with, the person who teaches and educates others is more blessed and more receiving of reward when asleep than a person who is awake and praying. So this kind of highlights how important education is in our religion, and how much we should strive to achieve it. I was studying about the Islamic Golden Age a few weeks ago, and I studied and learned that during those times, during the period of time which scholars or historians regard as the Golden Age of Islam, they stated that most caliphs or khalifas in that time used to pay educated people or professionals to teach other people. So what they would do is they would invite scholars from other countries. They would pay them for their life. They would pay for their lavish lifestyles, and they would invite them in their cities to teach their students in their universities. And it was not limited to only Muslims. The Khalifas and the Caliphs were Muslims. This was the Muslim empire, but they used to invite even non-Muslims. They weren't hesitant to gain knowledge from non-Muslims as well. Which brings to my last point, which is that we have sort of segregated and separated Islamic and worldly knowledges. There is nothing different. There isn't a difference between Islamic and worldly knowledge. They're both education and fields and arts that can be learned and should be learned. So when we hear about physics, chemistry, maths, these things, we don't regard them religion. But if we are studying about God or something other than that, like mysticism, we would regard them as religion. But that is not really appropriate, and there are a plethora of reasons why that is the case, and this separation should be annulled and extinguished. But this has made a lot of scholars, and I'm hopeful that the scholars who are graduating today are well learned in all sorts of fields, but most religious scholars that are graduating aren't that learned. So their sphere of influence or their demographic is limited to a very specific or a very small group of people. So people who are going to universities aren't going to take you as seriously because you aren't that educated. They are just going to discard your opinion because you're not learned of their ways and you are not aware of how people interact or how people are living their lives. So this is a big problem, and our institution, Al-Furqan Scholars Academy, we are aiming to eliminate that disparity and that segregation, and that's about it. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.